Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, in the last video I did just a little while ago, I was talking about Scotland's deplorable and falling life expectancy. And I suggested it's actually SNP policy, and I did also qualify it by saying that there's various lifestyle issues as well. But I did highlight that a lot of it is going to be policy, particularly towards health and social care. We have a story here, a very quick one. And again, I'm not going to go too much in detail on it, but you have another example of why that social care and health and social care issue is likely to cause an awful lot of problems and therefore exacerbate this life expectancy problem. And of course, this is with drink-related alcohol rehabilitation services. And they have these things where people who have genuinely a desire to try and help get themselves off. They've come hooked, they've become alcoholic, or they're on their way to becoming alcoholic, and they need help. People do need help, regardless of what it is. And they've cut the funding by 40%. We're talking, well, millions of pounds of funding gone. So, of course, that's money that is no longer helping people, which means they don't get helped, which means it adds to this life of poverty and misery. And not just for the people who have the problem, but for their families and friends around them, because these things are never, singular. An alcoholic in the family affects the whole family. An alcoholic, for example, an alcoholic father or an alcoholic mother leads to misery and poverty for all those children that live in there. So it is a massive, massive social issue. And of course, the SNP have decided that they're going to cut funding for this by 40%. So we'll take a look and see another reason why this life expectancy is falling and why life in general is miserable under the SNP. Here goes. So SNP calls alarm as alcohol rehab cut by 40%, but drink-related death toll still rises. And of course, the two are inextricably linked. You can't have one without the other. When you cut one, the other is bound to rise. There are a set of scales here. And when you cut the funding to rehab, of course the death toll is going to go up. Deeply alarming figures have shown the extent of cuts to alcohol treatment options for those impacted by addiction, just weeks after the SNP government were found to have presided over record-breaking alcohol deaths. It's not a surprise because in Scotland, alcohol or other substances are the only way out for some of these people from the misery of living in an SNP-controlled Scotland. And there's Alina Whittam, another import. This time, she's the SNP's Canadian import. You have the Canadian import Jeffrey in the Greens, and now you've got Whittam, or Whitlis, Alina Whitlis, as we'll call her now. That's her new name. A woman who's come over simply because she can't succeed in Canada. So she comes over and fails in Scotland too, by the looks of it. The number of people in Scotland receiving treatment for problem drinking has dropped by 40% in the past 8 years. Now, that doesn't mean that there's a 40% drop in problem drinking. It's 40% drop in treatment for problem drinking. Let's get that one out of the way. And this is sparking new calls by the Scottish Conservatives for a right to treatment to be enshrined in law. A total of nearly 20,000 people accessed alcohol treatment programs in 21-22, compared with 32,500 in 13-14, according to figures obtained by the Tories. So under, we're looking there, 8 years of Tory rule, it's nearly halved. It's just ridiculous. 40% drop in just 8 years. The finding comes after official figures published last month showed there was 1,276 deaths in Scotland as a result of alcohol misuse in 2020, the highest number of alcohol-related deaths recorded in 14 years. And remember, 16 years of the last 16 years have been SNP rule, so it's completely an SNP issue. You can't blame Westminster for this one. The treatment figures were obtained by Scottish Conservative MSP Miles Briggs in a written answer to a question he asked of the Scottish Government Minister for Substance and Alcohol Policy Elena Whitlis. Miss Briggs said the figures were deeply alarming. I would actually go so far as to say shameful. Deeply, deeply shameful that this woman's presiding over a department that is cutting help for very vulnerable people. These people, I mean, when you have an addiction, you are vulnerable. And the worst of it is, it's not, as I say, it's not just you. It's the family, it's the wife, the husband, the partner. It's the children. It's especially the children. They go without food, without care. They're often the subjects of DV, and a terrible domestic abuse and things like that. Simply because of one person in the house, and sometimes more than one person in the house, having an addiction to a particular substance, in this case alcohol. And it is only right that that these things are put in place to try and help people. Now they've got to want to help themselves. You've got to accept that. But to cut the funding like this at a time when the figures are rising shows a severe lack of, well, firstly, of humanity, and secondly, of common sense, because you're only exacerbating a problem. You're making far more problems that will cost even more further down the line. But then they don't see, and I keep saying this, they don't see consequences. They don't understand, because they're all morons. Anyway, a party spokesman for Social Security, Housing and Equalities argued that the statistics underline the need for the Right to Recovery Bill, first proposed by party leader Douglas Ross in 2021, ahead of the Holyrood election. The bill, if passed, would enshrine in law the right of everyone with a substance or alcohol problem to receive the treatment they need. And again, this could be part of the health and social care budget. It's not a major thing. There's plenty of money there. It's just being wasted on other things. Mr. Briggs said it is shameful reflection of the SNP's mishandling of Scotland's alcohol crisis that the number of people accessing treatment programmes has been slashed at the same time as the number dying due to problem drinking has soared. Now, I said yes, it will cost money to do that, but the savings are there later on, because you've got far more social problems with these people and their addictions and the problems they cause later for families that all have to be sorted out than if they were treated early, quickly and efficiently. It is impossible to avoid the conclusion that these two sets of stats are interlinked. No, it is. It is impossible for that. The two stats are obviously and directly linked. This isn't one of those where correlation does not mean causation. These two both correlate and are causative, because you are not getting in to treat anyone. There will be people who want treatment and it just isn't there. So it is causative, not just correlation. He added, they admitted that they took their eye off the ball on substance deaths. Increasingly, it seems, they have again on deaths by alcohol. Again, it's policy. And as I said in the previous video, this is the sort of thing that, brings down life expectancy. So what do you expect? They are not putting the care into health and social care. They're not putting the resources into health and social care. And so these things are bound, as surely as day follows night, these things are bound to happen. He said this legislation, which has the backing of experts, charities and those with the lived experience, would ensure that every Scot can access the potentially life-saving treatment they need to tackle their addiction to substances or alcohol. The Scottish Government said recent research estimated our world-leading minimum unit pricing policy, which has provably failed despite the spin they're about to give on this, has saved hundreds of lives. That's actually a lie. We've covered this. And it says here has likely averted hundreds of alcohol attributable hospital admissions. In fact, there was about 15 to 20 studies. I think it was 20 studies, if I remember the issue. They did 20 studies. Of the 20 studies, 19 said there were absolutely no benefits to it at all, and one said there may be a benefit. So of 20 studies, only one said there may, and not a definitive yes, may be a benefit. So that is the Scottish Government outright lying. There's no other word to put it. Lying. They have not saved a single life by raising the price of alcohol, because alcoholics will pay the price. What they have done is increased the deaths from other substances because they are so much cheaper than the alcohol, and they've increased misery and poverty because the families of these alcoholics are sitting there watching the money go to the shopkeepers, not going into buying food for children and things like that. So again, the SNP quite blatantly lying to your face because they don't want to look like complete and utter failures. Far too late for that. Anyway, I'm going to come up. We're going to take one last look at another failure, another imported Canadian failure, Elena Whitlis, and ask, why do they keep importing them? We've got enough idiots in the SNP that are homemade. Can we stop importing more idiots from the worst country in the world that keeps voting in Trudeau, the man who likes to applaud the Waffen-SS, remember? What a moron. Anyway, coming up. I'm surely not alone in thinking that all these policies and things are all absolutely deliberate, aren't they? They've got to be. Nobody gets these things wrong like that accidentally and continually accidentally. It's got to be deliberate policy. They are deliberately getting rid of people in Scotland. Cut the funding for that, cut the funding for this, cut the funding for something else. Let's see how many of the worthless we can eradicate. Tell me I'm wrong. I can't think of a reason why I'm wrong. Why else would you put a moron in charge of a department like this and then cut the funding? Anyway, I shall leave that there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you're seeing here on the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. And remember, they are really out to get you. So until next time, stay safe, stay well, and take care. Bye.